Yo guys, welcome to RenderRam. My name is Vieko, and today we actually have a first ever special guest on RenderRam channel, and I want everyone to give a special applause and welcome or whatever to Neil Blevins. So Neil, welcome to the channel.
Thank you so much. I'm glad to be here.
So I don't know how many of you know who Neil is. A lot of you probably know him because of his super famous Soulburn scripts. I've been personally using those for I don't know, since forever, probably. So yeah, Neil, thank you for joining us. How are you doing? How are things in life? How is everything?
Oh, things are going good. Right now, it is. I live up in Seattle in the U.S., and it is raining cats and dogs outside. So if the power goes out and I suddenly disappear, you'll know where I went. I'm not leaving. It's just that there's a lot of nuttiness. There's cars flying by outside with the wind. It's
Oh, you do
pretty.
have a crazy weather like that, right?
Yeah, I mean, well, it's very rainy in Seattle for sure compared to other spots that I've lived in before. I used to live in California. There was
Right.
some rain, but not nearly as much as up here. But so far, we're being hit with an atmospheric river, I guess they call it, which is where
The
all the
atmospheric
rain
what?
pours down. Yeah, atmospheric river. So the idea is that
Oh,
it's just like torrential downpours that'll be going on for several days. So I suspect it'll be like this for a while now.
that's
But otherwise,
crazy.
everything's going fantastic.
I have to notice a couple of things. Right
Mhm.
before you, like behind your head, I remember that image, that picture on the wall. That's a super old work of yours, right?
Oh yeah, a mouths to feed. Yeah, that's a I don't have. Actually, it's funny. A friend of mine told me he went to an artist's house, and the guy had only his own paintings everywhere, like just on every wall was his own work, and he thought that was a little bit weird. I promise you, I do have lots of paintings that are not mine, but this one happens to be one of mine, the one that's back here. Yeah, mouths to feed. Three, I think it was.
Well, as I mentioned right before I clicked on recording, just for everyone, I'm a super big fan of Neil Blevins, of his work and everything, and I just mentioned his famous image, which is called Hatred 4, which I love very much. I actually managed to save at some point a super old version of that, which was available somewhere online. It's like, I don't know, 600 kilobytes or something. Let me just find that image. I just want you guys to see that. Uh,
We're in the Wayback Machine.
yeah. So, this is the image. This is the Hatred 4 image from Neil Blevins. It's the year 2000. And yeah, this is I think this was like one of the biggest inspirations that I have. I tried doing all the mecha stuff and all that. And it was a super big inspiration for me. So yeah, you were kind of a big part of the, of the whole creation thing.
Well, thank you very much. When did you actually start doing 3D? Were you still in school at that point, or did you
I
were
literally
you starting?
started, yeah, I started when I was in seventh grade.
Okay,
And that was 2000, I think year 2000, something like that.
okay, gotcha.
So I was like
Yeah, at
super,
that point,
super
that was
early.
1 year after I joined Blur. So I started I got in the industry in 1999, and I was 1 year into the Blur experience. I can't remember if that was using the Brazil renderer or not.
Yeah,
But
up
I
here, I
was
remember you were using the Brazil render, yes.
okay. Well, I did. I don't know for that image because that might have been Ray Effects, which was the built-in one that was also written by the same people that made the Brazil renderer. But I don't remember the details on that.
Wait, so how
Certainly,
long are you in the industry? Like, how long are you doing the 3D overall in general?
well, professionally since '99, so that would make it 27 years. Non-professionally, I started in 1993, so I was in. Well, okay. I started doing pixel by pixel art before then. Pixel art, like that, because not
Yeah.
because it's an old retro thing, but because it's actually the way you could make artwork.
Yeah, yeah,
So I
yeah, I
had
know.
programmed. There was no Photoshop, or at least no Photoshop that was available to the general public. So it was programming things dot by dot. So I would take a piece of graph paper, I'd draw the thing on the graph paper, I'd figure out, okay, X14, Y27 is this color. I only had like 16 colors to paint with, and I was making mutant animals that are fighting ninjas for a video game project. Because of course, as you're that age, you're going to make mutant animals fighting ninjas. That's just the way it works.
But it's fascinating because, like what you just, explained, it involves a lot of technical work. it's like technical also understanding of things. Move pixel here, do this there. Left, right, up, down. So you were obviously kind of triggered by the whole technicality of it, because in the end you pretty much became this freaking 3ds Max overlord.
Overlord. Well, I don't think I would put it that way, but no. I mean, my father was an engineer, so I did have an engineering background. But that being the case, I was drawing since I was tiny. Like 4 years old, I was, Star Wars, the AT-ATs, the big, robots in the snow on Empire Strikes Back. I was drawing those with the little tiny, details on the side, all the greebles and all of that at that age. So I consider myself kind of like 60% artist, 40% technical, maybe 70-30, somewhere in that range. But yeah, I mean, there was just no choice. I loved computers and I loved art and I wanted to do both of them. And the mouse wasn't really a thing until a few years later. So without a mouse, it's like, okay, you're going to program the dots and exactly where they go. And then the mouse became a common occurrence. And I'm like, wow, you mean I can just click and the dot changes that color? Awesome.
That's so much easier. Crazy.
I know. Again, there was still mice around then, but it was like Macintoshes and things had mice. PCs did not have mice, or at least not easily available ones. So that was a big revelation to me.
I can imagine. So just one thing. You are very famous for your Soulburn scripts. Of course, everything that you do, there is a lot of fame in it. But there is one thing about you that you've been doing forever, and that's pretty much robots. So, ever since I've been following your work, that's like 25 years ago, it's just robots, 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 robots. And now the question is, when do you, where does the drive for the robots, come from? Because from what I understand, you've been working in all these, amazing studios, like Pixar and all the what was the latest one? The Warner Brothers one, the Monolith,
and Blur, and
and all the work from there that I've seen, it's always some sort of robot thing. So you're this robot guy. So what's up with robots? I want to hear that.
I promise you, I mean, at Pixar, I was there 16 years, and I didn't make a single robot at Pixar. I did work on WALL-E, so I got to work on landscapes with robots in it, but I didn't actually work on any robot.
Okay, look, we are friends. You can tell me, right? Is that actually the reason why you've quit Pixar? Because they gave you a robot movie, and they didn't allow you to make a single robot there. You can tell me.
No. It was simply because, well, first of all, I was on Up before that, and then when I got moved over to WALL-E, I love doing environments. That's sort of my primary bread and butter, at least in terms of professionally. But personally, I love doing robots. And the reality is that there's never been a time I haven't done robots. I was born right before the first Star Wars film came out. So like R2-D2 and C-3PO were like some of the first things I remember. Again, the AT-ATs in Empire were really, really big. Battlestar Galactica, the original one, had come out. And so you had those robots. Buck Rogers, robots were everywhere. And then, of course, when I turned 7 or 8, I forget exactly when, that's when Transformers came out. And how could you not love Transformers? Giant robots running around.
I mean, everyone loves Transformers.
Yeah. So no, it's like, what inspired you to do robots? It's like, in my mind, there's never been a time where there hasn't been robots. And so I can't answer your question. It's just always been something I've been fascinated with my entire life.
That's actually so cool, because whatever pretty much you are seeing, looking, working at, you're seeing it through the, robot background eyes. Because I've been looking at your tutorials. So the stuff that you do, a lot of these examples on how to add dirts and all that stuff, a lot of that is all on robots. Of course, you have some landscape-based stuff, but I can feel that robot in it, But it's so amazing. Yeah. It's so awesome that you do all these robots, usually people get, a passion for something, and then after 10, 15 years, it just evaporates. You're still live and kicking with robots.
Although there is a wide variety of things going on. I mean, obviously, my time at Pixar, I did a lot of varying styles, a lot of different challenges, a lot of different types of jobs, and so I keep things fresh. But at the core of me is definitely, the robot or spaceships or or those sorts of things.
But we
I just recently released a sketchbook of robot heads
Yeah.
that I just did recently. So, although I'm going to take a break from drawing robot heads for a while, because after 123 of them, I need a break. I'll do something else for a bit.
Yeah. You mentioned Pixar, right? I believe a lot of people who started 3D, me included, like a lot of us have seen all the Pixar movies and all that. We were all like, "Oh man, I want to work for Pixar, etc." You're the person who actually managed to quit. So, what's the
Oh, I'm not the only
like?
one. There's many people in
How was
the
that whole experience for you working there? Like, I don't know if you ended up in on bad terms or something, but what was your experience with them?
No. Working for Pixar was fantastic. Just to start at the end part first, I guess. So the reason I left Pixar was primarily because of my commute. So Pixar is in San Francisco, and I had about a half-hour commute in and a half-hour commute back to the company from where I lived, which wasn't bad. And San Francisco is very expensive to live in. It's probably one of the most expensive cities to be in. And what ended up happening was all these people moved into the last 5 miles of my drive, and they clogged up the highways. And so I started spending an hour and a half in each direction going to and from work every day. So imagine spending 3 hours, and that 3 hours isn't just like even 3 hours of driving. It's like 3 hours of moving 1 inch and then stopping and then moving
3 hours of frustration.
Yeah, I mean, the shot in Incredibles where Bob is like in his tiny car and he's trying to like move in the traffic. Like that was me for a couple of years, and it was just untenable. I just could not deal with it anymore, and there was no solution to the problem. And so I also love doing video games and that kind of stuff. And so I said, okay, maybe it's time to move on to something else. So as far as I know, I left on very good terms, and I still have lots of amazing friends who are there. Funnily enough, 2 years later, the COVID happened, and then everyone was working from home full time. So I guess if I'd stuck around, I might have been able to work from home. And then even now, there's somewhat more flexible hours there, which is kind of a good thing. But no, I have nothing. I mean, it's a workplace like anything else, and there's good bits and bad bits no matter where you're working. But Pixar was a fantastic place to work, and I worked on so many amazing projects and made so many great friends, and I learned so much when I was there. So
I can imagine,
thumbs up in general.
I generally tried RenderRam recently. So I made a video impression on RenderRam, and that engine is so freaking awesome. Like the artistic creativity that you can do with that, I was mind blown with what that thing can do. So I believe when you were in Pixar, you were using RenderRam there, right? What software were you on? Because it's not Max.
Well, it was a variety. So actually, when I started off, and I was using Max at Pixar. So the deal was, my first film was The Incredibles, the first Incredibles, and they had so many environments to do that they could not do them with the regular pipeline of all the different departments doing stuff. And so they'd done some matte painting before, but they decided to open up a more permanent matte painting department. And that was right at the time where matte painting started expanding into like 3D could be part of your matte painting. Like matte painting wasn't literally only painting in 2D and putting it in a background anymore. So when I first was on The Incredibles, my first job was actually using 3D Studio Max, and I was actually rendering in the Brazil renderer, and I was making 3D matte paintings for The Incredibles for a bunch of different shots. But then after that, I then moved into the regular pipeline, and there I was using a combination. I was still used Max a little bit for modeling because I liked its modeler better than the Maya modeler, but I also learned how to model in Maya, used RenderMan, later on used Katana to do shading, also shaded in Slim, which was the piece of software that you could do that inside of RenderMan. I could, Mudbox, probably 20 or 30 different applications over the time that I was there. So, I will always have a soft spot in my heart for Max. And, I did a lot of my personal work there. I'm pretty software agnostic. I dislike, and partly it's because I experienced it myself. I disliked, people who are like, oh, you're one of those people. You use that software. Well, you're obviously inferior to me because I use this software. It's like, no, you have to. It's good to use lots of software, and it's not the software you use. It's the artist behind it. All the software does is allows you to do certain things faster, depending on what it is that you're trying to achieve or better. The way Pixar worked, it wouldn't have made sense to use something like the Brazil renderer in the form it was across the entire company. You needed something that had far more, hooks into it via programming and whatnot. And also, that was never going to be a thing, right? It's like Pixar was writing its own renderer. They wrote their own renderer. They were going to use their own renderer because it's part of what makes Pixar. But that being said, I used lots of different pieces of software, and we used off-the-shelf software when it made more sense, or we used internal software when it made more sense. And yeah, so maybe that gives you a bit of a general view of how things work there.
Well, that's awesome. I mean, that's great to hear. But okay, so I've noticed that you've been uploading. So, by the way, Neil Blevins has his own YouTube channel, which is called Art of Soulburn. And what I've noticed there is that you have also started making Blender tutorials.
Mm-hmm.
Now, before we go into the Blender sphere, there is, this one thing that I believe a lot of people would like to hear a word or two about, and that is your decision to stop developing Soulburn scripts. I know you wrote that you were doing it because Max went full subscription. You were against that. That was the whole thing. But your scripts still work, and I'm using them still.
Great, I'm glad. I don't want them to stop working, ideally.
Yeah, but now here's the thing. I understand. So please don't get me wrong. I understand the frustration about getting your options to be very limited. Now you cannot use that, and now you can only use this and all that. Have you maybe cooled off a little bit, and you're maybe thinking of just still releasing a good old day update on the Soulburn scripts?
No, I'm afraid that's probably not going to happen. The amount of development I've done in the Soulburns. Well, first of all, my last copy of Max was Max 2022, so that's the last functioning copy that I can own. Everything after that is subscription only, and it's not just Autodesk. I also still use Photoshop CS6. I will not upgrade to new versions of Photoshop. I'm very staunch about the not liking the subscription model as a whole idea, as an economic model. I disagree with it for many reasons.
I completely agree with you. Because let me just interrupt you one thing, and please let me know if you share a similar opinion as I do with that.
Mm-hmm.
When you own something versus when you rent something, like every time when I would have a piece of software that I bought and it's mine forever, it feels like an asset that I have. But being kind of bound to the fact that next month you might lose everything that you have is just feels bad. What's your opinion on that?
No, it's untenable. My wife likes saying this, which I always think is funny, and that is in the olden days, the companies paid us a paycheck to do work. Now the companies want us to pay them a paycheck. And except in very specific circumstances, I do not like that model. Like a place where it makes sense to me is, for example, I play a lot of Destiny 2. It's one of the main video games that I play. And there, it's not quite a subscription model, but you are paying, for the new seasons that come out of the particular deal. And also, a lot of the value you're gaining from that is from the community that is all together playing that video game as a whole. And so there, I totally understand not being able to own the game, because you're not, a big chunk of the game is actually the community and all the people being connected together. It doesn't make any sense for a company to say, for the rest of our existence, even if our company is gone, I promise you'll be able to connect with that community, and that we're going to keep the servers running, right? It's like, that makes no sense. But something like 3D Studio or any piece of 3D or 2D software, it's not really a service. You're not, there is no intangible thing. If they went away, you totally could keep that software running. There's no reason that you can't do that. And so to me, that cheapens the whole thing. So yeah, something where it's truly a service, where they're giving you something that requires their server to be in existence in order to continue to function, that makes sense to me. But if it's not that way, and most of these pieces of software aren't, it doesn't make any sense to me whatsoever, other than the fact that they want to make unlimited money. And you know, I get it. I like unlimited money. Unlimited money is a good thing, but unfortunately, it is to the detriment of the customer. And I believe very strongly that the customer needs to come first.
Yeah, absolutely. I no, I completely agree with that, and but yeah, it was a little bit sad when I saw that candle that you put a little image of the candle on your website. You know, it's like that's
Yep.
it. And I was
Well,
like,
just so you know, I've only added like 2 or 3 very small tweaks, like bug fixes to them since then for my own use. So you're not missing much. I don't have like some secret, you know, stash of all new scripts or
that's what I
something
was
like
thinking. Yeah, that's what I was thinking. That you're like developing it on the side, and then you have this big chest full of scripts. You know.
Yeah, no. Well, I mean, on top of that, it's they're all stuck in Max 2022. I don't know. I've never used any of the newer ones, and so I don't
Right.
know what changes are there. I don't know what works with it, what doesn't work. But I'm very happy that they're still working because giving those out to the community was a big part of my life, and I'm very proud of the
Yeah.
fact that so many people enjoyed them and liked using them. And so I would be horrified if people all of a sudden couldn't use them because they made some sort of change to the interface or change to the way Mac scripts run or something like that. So I'm very pleased that they're still working for you and the rest of the community.
Yeah, I mean, a lot of people are using the scripts without actually knowing who's behind the scripts, and like I would have a scenario where I would literally, ask someone like, "Oh, are you using like Neil Blevins' scripts?" And they're like, "No, who's that?" And I'm like, "Oh, are you using Soulburn scripts?" "Oh yeah, of course, for years."
And I have to admit, it has been kind of funny when I show up once in a while in places and then somebody is like, wait a second, you wrote the Soulburn scripts? Because more recently, I've been doing a lot of concept art. And by doing concept art, a lot of concept arts tend not to be, quite as technical. And so somebody gets very confused very quickly, or they're like, well, wait, you're a concept artist. You're not a tool writer. And I'm like, well, I do both. I do lots of different things. So it's funny seeing that sort of like, what is it, cognitive dissonance happening in their brain when they come to that realization.
I can imagine, but you know what? So wait, hold on. You've been releasing Blender tutorials also recently.
Yeah.
Like Soulburn scripts for Blender? No?
There is, I will not say for sure, but I think it is possible that may occur at some point in the future.
I mean, I
Especially-
believe that whenever you start making a script, you're making a script because that certain feature you did not find it, so you are creating your own. That's kind of the purpose of creating a script.
Yep.
So yeah, I'm hoping that you're gonna find something in Blender that you don't have.
Well, so first of all, I've been using Blender. Well, first of all, I've been using it on and off for a while now, maybe like
Yeah,
2
that's what I
years.
wanted to ask you. What is your like thing? Or like, are you planning to replace Max or I mean, you probably are since you are stuck with
Well, okay,
22 and
Well, let me explain sort of the larger picture. So first of all, I'm using like I want to really know Blender to like the nth degree before I really go in there and start writing scripts. For example, there's lots of stuff where it's like, oh, that's a Soulburn script. Actually, it's built into Blender as part of its regular tool set. And so I want to know all of that before I write something that doesn't need to be written. That being said, basically I do have 3D Studio Max. It's still running on my computer. I hope that when I get a new computer in 3 or 4 years from now, it'll install on that computer. But I accept the fact that it may not. And they may say you cannot install, even though you technically own the license permanently, because it's a perpetual license, we are no longer activating it for new computers. I mean, there's any number of things that could happen, right? And so if that's the case, I need to be able to say, okay, I can still make 3D work. And from everything that I've done in Blender, I feel very strongly I can continue on doing the kind of work that I do inside of Blender and leave 3D Studio behind. That being said, as long as I still have 3D Studio and it's still running, I am more than happy to continue to use it because I have a lot of assets in there. Not only the Soulburn scripts, but I have hundreds of materials that I've made, which I can just slap onto a surface and it looks the way I want it to. I have all that knowledge, all the muscle memory of all the modeling tools and that kind of thing. So basically, I'm hedging my bets. I'm hedging my bets that it's like, okay, if I do lose Max, I then can use Blender. And then on top of that, I've been doing a lot of teaching recently, and students are in the same boat I am in terms of the subscription software. They're like, I'm not paying a subscription software. I'm fine paying a one-time price for something, or I'm fine with free software. But no, I'm not going to be beholden to these companies. And so I can't teach Max anymore. I can't teach Maya anymore. None of the kids want to learn them. They all want to learn Blender. That was only even pushed stronger once the Oscar went to the Flow, which was made entirely in Blender. There's a big push now in the younger generations where they're seeing all the indie stuff and they're really excited about that, and they want to do that sort of work. And so Blender fits in perfectly inside of there. And same with paint packages, right? It's like people have heard of Photoshop, but the kids are like, I don't want to use Photoshop because I don't want to have to pay the subscription fee. So they're using Clip Studio Paint, or they're using Procreate. And those are the things that I'm focusing on. So as I do more teaching, I also have to use Blender more, because if I don't, then the students are not interested in the stuff that I'm teaching them.
Yeah, because here is the thing, I've been thinking about whether to use whether, like, should I in the future switch to Blender and leave Max behind and all that, because I do kind of have a feeling that like, I can see that Blender is not as filled with features as Max is. On the other hand, Blender has sculpting tools, Max doesn't. So there's a lot of pros and cons. But there is this one general thing that I'm kind of like, why I'm weighing things. You know how everyone says Blender is free, Blender is free. Well, it's pretty much that. And I don't mean that like with the fact that, I'm going to save money because, Blender is free. It's not that. It's the community. Because it's free, there is literally no valid reason why a completely fresh new 3D artist, if he wants to learn 3D, why would he go and learn Max? He will just directly go to Blender. If you go to any schools, like big schools, colleges, etc., it's all Blender there. We can have this giant army of Max people now, however we want, but the entire new generation of people that are currently being grown, it's all Blender. I believe it's like 95% at least Blender. So,
well, I'll tell you, like, talking to a lot of educational institutions, the old school way was, well, even though there's free alternatives, the industry, quote unquote, wants Max and Maya. But the reality is that most of the companies that use Max and Maya are now going out of business. And that has nothing to do with their software. It has to do with all the economic disturbances that, are going on in the industry as a whole. Like, big companies are shedding people like mad. In the games industry right now, it's almost, in the US, a 50% unemployment rate. So, one of every two person is unemployed in the States right now making video games. So the schools teaching Max and Maya, some of them are still a little stuck in, it's what the industry wants. But the question I have is, what do you mean the industry? Like, the industry is changing rapidly, and I don't know if there's going to be that many very large. There's still, they will exist, but I don't know how many of these big, large studios are going to be around that will still use Max and Maya, because that's what they've always used. And I think that there's going to be a huge, again, indie swell that's going to happen in the next 5 to 10 years. Whether you can make a living at it, I don't know. But there's certainly an indie swell in terms of people excited about that. And they're going to use these pieces of software like Blender and Procreate.
Yeah.
So I am starting to see more and more schools going, you know what? It just makes more financial sense, and also sense in the terms of, getting the kids the instruction that they want and need to switch over to these other pieces of software. That being said, again, I am pretty software agnostic. I am not going to go after anyone for their software choice. If they want to keep using Max, great. If they want to keep using Maya, great. If they want to pay a monthly fee, great. That's your own business. But I do think that there is a pretty fundamental change headed our way.
Yeah, because I've been, I'm a Max hardcore user. I've been using Max since version R3.
Okay.
3D Studio Max R3, that's when I started using it. And, I've been always super hardcore about Max. When everyone would be talking about shitty updates this, shitty updates that, I would be like, no, it's all good, it's going to be better. I would be like the Kumbaya guy, about the...
Well, good. It's good to be positive.
Kumbaya Max. That's me.
Yeah.
But lately, whenever I'm browsing things online, if I go to LinkedIn, for example, and if I'm just looking at the posts on LinkedIn, like the craziest. Like I'm more of a technical artist, right? So I always look at things by complexity, the technicalities, and all that. And the craziest things, 100% of them that I've seen, I'm not saying 99%, I'm saying 100% of every post where I was where I was like, Jesus, god damn, what is that? All Blender.
Yep. And it's not really, in my opinion, necessarily that its Blender is so much better. It's, again, like you mentioned it, the community.
The
So you now have
community,
this
exactly. It's
community
only
of
the
people
community.
who are excited and filled with life and like, ooh, what can I do? Can I do this? Can I figure out how to do this? And that leads to the innovation that leads to what you are seeing, almost more so than the tools themselves. Once you get to a certain
Yeah, because look at this, for example. Let's take, a super famous rendering engine like Corona Render, right? One relatively basic feature, like a very basic feature, does not work in Corona. And I mean, a lot, but let's just focus on this one. And that feature is only visible in render.
Oh, okay.
Only
Gotcha.
visible
I've never
in
used
render.
Corona before, so that's interesting to know that that's not a thing.
So, for example, if I fire up Ornatrix, where I tell Ornatrix I want to see 500 hairs in my viewport, but I want to see 5 million in my render, what do you think will happen when I fire up interactive render? Yes, exactly. All 5 million hairs are going to be displayed in my viewport, right? Whenever you put Turbo Smooth and you have, like render iterations, as you fire up, that, it's going to be, you're going to see all the iterations in viewport. And I remember I was talking to somebody from the development team of Corona, and they pretty much said, like, we don't have as deep of an access inside of Max so that we can make that compatibility.
That's really fascinating because, of course, the whole reason that you had so many of these new renderers for 3ds Max back in the Brazil, V-Ray, Arnold day was that Max had such an open API that it was the easiest the easiest 3D program to write renderers for. Yeah, so that's funny. The tables have turned.
How the tables have turned, yar. But yeah, that's that's one of the things, and now I'm looking at, like we have this super powerful engine, that can do various stuff. And then you have this freaking structure which is called Autodesk, which is like clearly, like kind of, I'm not gonna say losing the race, but can you just weaken things up a little bit? Just give something. Like, you don't have to implement some sort of, AI crazy tech, but at least give community to build something on top of it. Not. I hope you understand what I mean.
It's tough. It's sad. I mean, I started using 3D Studio DOS too. I got a student version of that It was in like something called the Autodesk collection, if I remember. It had AutoCAD 10 or something and a bunch of other ones in it. So I've been using 3D Studio and then 3D Studio Max for a very long time. And let me tell you, writing that post which had the little candles in it saying it's time to end the Max scripts, it was difficult. It was a difficult decision. It wasn't just
I can imagine.
I wasn't rage quitting. I mean, I guess sort of rage quitting the software, but I'm not rage quitting the community. I love the community.
Yeah, of course.
I've been a part of it for so long. I've gone to, went to SIGGRAPH for years and years. I went to the Autodesk parties with people. I was invited to, gunslinger events where I got to see like new features and discuss those sorts of things. So, it was a little bit difficult, but I knew, for my own personal opinions about what is the right way forward, it was the right thing to do.
You're right. Because, for example, I have a friend of mine who's also completely anti-subscription, right? He's not gonna pay for anything. He wants to own stuff and all that. And now here's the thing. He has Marvel as designer, right? Marvel as designer, he got his license of version, I don't know which was the last one for the perpetual license, 12 or something like that, right? And then they just, they switched to the whole, monthly subscription thingy, and they would just, send him these emails, like hi, like we're gonna give you discounts, we're gonna give you first 2 years of subscription for free. You know, like they were tossing all these baits. And he was like, nope, 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 not, don't want it, nope, nope, nope. And that went on for years and years. And then after like, I think 3 or 4 years, they sent him an email like, this is a one-time thing. Do you want to buy the latest version as a perpetual license?
Really?
And
Nice.
he was like, yeah, I want to do that. So he just paid for it, and now he has it. Of course, he cannot update it anymore, but...
Sure, but still, he got at least another drop of some good stuff.
Yeah. So I really hope that a similar luck gets struck on you. So this is like...
Well, I don't want it just for me. I want it for everyone.
Yeah,
I want them to
that.
do that one-time deal for the community as a whole. I would do it for sure.
I can imagine, yeah. Now, tell me this other thing. Let's address. I mean, it's not the elephant in the room, but it's in the room definitely, and that is artificial intelligence.
Another topic I have strong opinions about.
Oh yeah, let's do this. Come on. Here,
Gotcha.
I'm listening.
Okay. Oh, well, so my spiel, it's a very complex question. So I believe very strongly that the most important thing in life is real human connection. In fact, while I'm very happy to speak to you through Zoom and we're chatting right here, I would much prefer to be sitting at a bar, having a beer with you and chatting about this in real life. I think that nothing replaces that real, human connection that is sort of fundamental to the way humans are. And I have felt more and more that tech companies are trying to separate that human connection and instead create a human computer connection because it's more profitable. And that's not just about AI. That's about, what started off as being social media is now so much, slop and ads that you barely see that post about your friend who is posting about their new kid that they just, had or something like that. And so I think that there's a much bigger question than just the immediacy of jobs and whatnot. I do believe that, when people say the whole AI is just a tool, it's like, well, that's true. Technically, AI is just a tool. However, right now, I feel that tool is being used to hurt people. And that's why when you have a tool that hurts people, you need to have rules and laws and regulation to try to take the good parts without the bad parts. Like, I'm not going to say directly that it's as bad as an atomic bomb, but it's like when they discovered, how to split the atom, that's just science, right? But they could choose two paths once they did that. They could choose the path of nuclear annihilation, or they could choose the path of, energy sources that helps humanity. And with that, technology, they basically just chose the right thing, but only just. There was lots of, humming and hawing about what direction things would go. Of course, things could all change at any moment and things could go horribly wrong. But what I want them to do is I want them to make the right choice about the AI tech. And I want them to, make it ethically and then take that ethic tech and use it for the things that it makes sense to do. So I'll give you two counter examples. So one example is something, this was after I left Pixar, so I don't know all the details about this, but I read an article about it. So on Elemental, if you've seen that film, which is got the fire character that is fire all the time. So they wanted sort of semi-cartoony fire, but they didn't want to have to pay somebody to paint 10,000 frames, hand painting of cartoony fire on the character. It just made no sense to do that. But when they used real fire sims, that real fire sim looked too realistic and they wanted something more cartoony. So what they did was they came up with an LLM that looked at basically a bunch of keyframes of what the fire should look like artistically, which a real artist painted. And then they applied that with machine learning to the fire sim to make the fire sim look more cartoony. And then, did that application. It's called style transfer. So in my mind, I'm like, first of all, they would never pay somebody to make those 10,000 frames. Number two, who wants to paint 10,000 frames, on a computer other than just purely it'll give me money? There's like no one who is going to want to do that. I should never say no one. There was almost certainly no one that wants to do that. And so to me, that seems like a really good, use of the technology. Now let me do the opposite. So I have this one client and I will change the animal in order to protect the innocent. But basically the client wanted me to design a squid, a cartoony squid. And so what I did was I got, first of all, a bunch of photographs of real squids as part of reference to show them that, right? Makes sense. And they came to me with a Midjourney squid, which looked nothing like a squid. I don't know what it did, but it created this weird haphazard something, right?
But it looked
And
cool
then,
overall, probably, on that image.
yeah. And so I said, okay, so do you want a squid or do you want that? Because that's not a squid. And this person was like, well, no, that's a squid. And I'm like, well, no, it's not. This is real photos of a squid. That's what it looks like. And they said, no, I typed squid into Midjourney and it gave me this. So it's a squid. And so that person had taken their entire thought process and cognitive ability and handed it to the machine god. And basically, it's like, if the machine tells me this is true, it must be true because the machine knows better than I do. And that's the part that scares the F out of me, because that, like, even more than losing jobs, to generative AI, I do not want that future. I do not want a future where people stop thinking and start just believing whatever they're told or seen, through that sort of technology. So somewhere in between, using generative AI for everything and using no generative AI, no matter what the circumstances is, I believe, a happy medium. But overall, the last thing I'll say about it is that I believe that if you're going to use the technology, you should use it in a way that is ethical and also in a way that does not interfere with that human-to-human connection. People want to see stuff that a human has mostly done. And if you are just putting a prompt in and getting a book out the other end, that is very little human contribution. If you use it in a little small place here and there, I think it can maybe not interrupt that sort of connection. And so I'd be okay with that. And then, of course, is putting aside all the other issues like the power issue, the environmental issue, the using copyrighted work issue. That's something else that really needs to be dealt with.
I'm sorry. Have you heard those numbers? How much water for cooling is being used for generating a single image on ChatGPT and stuff like that?
Oh yeah. Well, I mean, there are
stupendous amounts. There were like, what was 50 liters of water or something like that just for one image.
Yeah, and people, I mean, what's happening is because they're big companies and they have a lot of money, they're actually stopping water and electricity from going to customers, like everyday people in some towns in the U.S., and instead throwing it all towards the giant server farms. So that is absolutely untenable. So so that's, I mean, what's your view on the whole generative AI thing? I've probably poisoned the well, but I'm interested to hear what your thought is on it.
Well, I mean, currently for AI, as I see it, I try to use it as a tool. I can see how the AI is infiltrating in all the frickin', little, edges and corners and crevices of my life. I can see it doing that, and I'm trying my best to kind of deflect that, right? But on the other hand, I'm usually a very lazy person, right? And if I can make something, like, I'm gonna spend 10 days working on one thing just so that it's not 2 clicks but 1 click. I do stuff like that, and that's the part where AI is getting me. That's my biggest issue, because I'm gonna get a notification on the latest iOS, on my iPhone, and it allowed me oh, do you want whenever you get a message, do you want an AI summary of whatever that is? Mm-hmm. I'm like, well, okay, and yeah, it just summarizes everything, and I'm like, man, just freaking read the message. Why are you, reading that AI crap? Just read the freaking message.
For me would be, you probably know, but anywhere between 15 and 50% of the stuff that AI produces in that respect is actually false. And so I could never read that summary because I would be even more so than all the other issues, and there are plenty of other issues, I would be afraid that it's going to tell me something that's incorrect, that then I will be, the person who sent it to me actually wants this, and instead I think they want that, and then I waste a day doing the wrong thing, and then they say, but I asked you to do this, or the big joke of they send, they don't have enough time to write an email, so they have AI send me an email, and I have my AI read it and summarize it for me. So you end up having AIs talking to each other instead of actually people talking to each other.
Well, yeah, I mean, but in general, I'm not really happy about the whole kind of global direction of where the AI is going in general, because I see that it's aiming strongly towards this thing that we don't need friends, that we can actually have this perfect digital person that will completely understand us, get our jokes, laugh with us, and we're gonna have a total blast with him, and then unfortunately in the end, everyone we will see as having flaws, and that's where the whole world is just gonna go to hell. But if we kind of transition now this whole talk to work, for example, the majority of the AIs that I use is primarily for inspiration stuff, right? Because I'm a technical artist, right? I don't do pretty. I've had a couple of live streams where I explained me and the pretty. I don't do pretty. I don't know how pretty looks like. I mean, that pretty much means that, a lot of things are pretty for me, right? Like if you tell me to design something for you, trust me, like I will think it's good, but trust me, it'll get the worst shit ever, at all. And this is where I use AI, because when AI creates something, I can see how objectively that might be considered pretty. And then I follow that lead. And then what happened is, I'm utilizing all my technical love for the thing, and I'm actually having the robot doing the dirty work for me. And that's the actual creativity, where my technical approach is the actual creativity and the love that I have, So that's pretty much where I'm at with that.
Gotcha. Well, I mean, you might remember, maybe not, but the Olympics this year, they had an ad that ran for a very short period of time where there was this little kid who was like, I want to tell my favorite, athlete what I really think about how awesome he is. And they were like, why don't you use, I don't think it was ChatGPT, but why don't you use a AI to write it for you? And then the athlete gets this incredibly well-spoken, email from this little tiny kid talking about how awesome it is. And he's like, oh, that's so wonderful. And I'm thinking to myself, what on earth is this? Like that kid writing to me with bad spelling and horrible grammar and, with E's backwards or whatever the thing is, that would mean so much more to me than getting something that I know has been run through an AI. So, I mean, I've not seen your artistic work. It might actually be horrible. I don't know. But, knowing that it came from you, for me anyway, would mean so much more to me than knowing that you had an AI do most of the work. Again, some of the work, trying to speed up certain small things. Sure.
I generally I don't enhance images with AI. I don't run an image through AI and then say, look, this is what I made, right? Mm-hmm. All my images are like raw renders. Like I use practically no post. Maybe just to add a touch of grain, etc. Right? But yeah, that's. I can actually show you. Speaking of me doing, my stuff only. Hold up, I think I lost you for a second. Just one sec.
I'm still here, even if.
Yeah. One sec. So there was this one thing that was like prior to the AI era, and that is this image.
Oh, cool! Nice.
Yeah, that's like a thing that I did. It was for a contest. So yeah, this was like a grayscale version of it.
So where did you get your reference for this? Assuming you did referencing, you didn't come up with it.
No, this was all from my head.
Is all from your head.
Yeah.
See, you're telling me, I'm not necessarily as creative as I should be. It looks awesome. That is, and it's all from your head. So don't sell yourself short.
You know what? It's look, I do product renders, right? And that's the part where you have to be modern and up to date with all the fancy trends and all that. And that's where I just use AI. Just tell me what's fancy trend. But me doing things that I actually enjoy doing, that turns out as stuff like this.
Mm-hmm. Well, I mean, that's the thing about commercial work, right? So commercial work is a combination of artistry and product.
Yeah.
And it'll always be a combination of the two. Like somebody who's like, I want $400 million to make my personal passion project. I'm like, no, that's just not going to work, right? It has to have some commercial appeal. But that being said, I feel that technology such as AI, if used incorrectly, pulls that balance further and further towards pure product. and further away from the art. And there's a certain point, and it's a breaking point for each and every one of us, and we have a different line that gets crossed. But there is a line where people just go, nope, not interested. McDonald's just had an ad which was done with AI, and they had so many people complain about it, they took it off YouTube. It got so much bad press about it.
I also saw that Coca-Cola is also making a lot of ads with AI now.
Yeah, they did a second one, even after the first one got, absolutely trashed. So they tried it a second time, and that one got trashed. The kids that I teach, you'd think that those kids are all like, ooh, new technology, this and that. They all grew up on cell phones. They're like, I hate AI. I don't want to use this sort of thing. So, they're the ones who are going to be buying the products.
You know what this means, by the way? You know what this means?
What does it mean?
Have you... Because I've started doing that, and now I'm asking you if you've started doing that. Are you aware that we've come to the age where we are like, back in my days,
oh, absolutely.
Things were better, different, all that. At some point in my life, I told myself, like if I ever, say back in my days something was this and that, I'm gonna, I don't know, do something. But back in my days, really things were better. They really were.
Some things were worse, but a lot of things were better. It's a combination. A lot of things are just different. But yes, I actually go into it. Like, first of all, I started going gray at 16. So it's
at 16 years of age.
Yeah, 15 years old. So I started having
something happened to you, or
I don't know, but I still have lots of hair, so I'm gonna stick with it as long as I can. But so I sort of, rather than being angry, I'm not going to say back in my day, I kind of go the opposite direction. I'm like, you know what? I'm going to be that grumpy old man, but I'm going to have a smile on my face when I do it, so that the youth knows that I'm kind of kidding, and I know that I'm the old man, six-fisted cloud kind of, thing.
Yeah, that's crazy. Okay, so where are you now? What's up with you today? So you are, like, from what I've seen on LinkedIn, it says that you're open to work, or you got the badge. Pixar's gone. The monolith thing, that's from what I've seen, not around. So
yeah, no, Monolith sadly got officially closed. I want to say a couple months ago. So.
Oh really? Okay.
Oh yeah. I know they're part of the mass closing of all the video game companies.
That's so crazy. Okay, we're gonna get to that, but like, at least here in Croatia, like if I'm from Croatia, so yeah. In Croatia, like, the majority of the 3D artists, all of them are in game studios. And I was constantly having this opinion that all these game studios are just flourishing, like they're boosting with happiness and joy and all that, and everybody else is struggling, so, and now you're telling me all these things about these studios closing, all of them just falling like bricks, Oh, yeah. So what's up with that?
It's, well, I mean, there's obviously there's a lot of speculation on the ins and outs of this, but it's not just game companies. Hollywood is having a lot of big problems as well. When I talk to friends of mine who work at making toilet paper, it's like, oh no, the same thing is happening to us as well. But so game studio wise, the best that I can figure out is that it's not that generative AI took our jobs, it's that all the money got taken out of the system once the money going up stopped. There's actually a really great video. I'll give it to you in case you want to link in to it in this, where somebody describes it very well. Although I've seen the same sort of thing from a number of sources. So basically, close to 75% of the money that was being invested in video games got taken out of video games. And it's when video games, like at a certain point, video games are going up and up and up in terms of sales, in terms of players, in terms of everything else. And then it kind of did this. So it's still making a lot of profit, but it's no longer unlimited profit. It kind of did a little swing, right? And then all of that funding got pulled out of video games and put into the next thing that seems to be doing this, which was generative AI. So it's not that the generative AI is doing the jobs of the video game people. It's just that all the money got taken out in order to fund that particular, it's like hopping from bubble to bubble, right? And so if you have an entire industry that loses 75% of all the money that's being invested in the industry, then all the companies are going to start laying people off or closing or all these other things, which is exactly what's happened.
I mean, so if I understand that correctly, it pretty much means that you had a bunch of investors who were just looking at which source gives them higher profit. And the source A started to decline in profit, but a source B happened and it started to go up. You know, for him, that's a source A and a source B. In real life, we are talking, game industry where, suddenly, hundreds or thousands of people got sacked, and then everything got into the AI. But for the investor or for the money talks kind of thing, it's source A or source B. So it's not really, like you said, it's not that, gaming artists did something wrong. It's just that they're not a hot topic anymore.
Yes,
in the term of money.
Yes, in terms of the funding of things. And there are people way more talented and skilled than me who have been looking for work, for 2 years. So it's not, I take no personal, I do not take this personally in any way. It truly is the larger industry as a whole. And I don't know what the future is going to be. So like the future of the industry in terms of games and film, is it going to be a lot smaller forever? Is it going to be a pendulum that's going to swing back? Part of me thinks that with all another thing about generative AI, you probably heard stories about the fact that it's incredibly not profitable. All this money is going into it because it's supposed to be this huge profitable thing soon. But at what time will either it'll become profitable, which I'm not sure how that's going to work, or it won't become profitable and then everyone's going to look for, whatever C is, or they'll head back towards A little bit in a more, reasonable fashion. So, we could be looking at a crash in terms of the tech industry in the next 1 or 2 years. It could take 2 or 3 years after that before the regular industries like games and film might come back, certainly in the United States. I know there's variation depending on what country you're living in due to various issues. So I don't know. I don't know what is going to happen. So as far as what's coming for me, I've been doing more and more teaching. That being said, one of the big things that a lot of teaching ends up becoming is we're teaching you how to get into the industry. But it seems kind of weird and counterproductive to teach people how to get into an industry that is not hiring people. So what I've been trying to focus on as much as possible is teaching people the joy of making art. And you can use those skills and that knowledge to make art for anything, whether that's your hobby, whether it's you want to do online, with a bunch of other people, whether that is something that does lead to a job, but that job might be an indie job, or that a job might be, you do get one of those coveted jobs at these very large companies. So that's sort of the big push that I've been doing. I have a couple of ideas that I'm not prepared quite to speak about yet, but I'm hoping to get off the ground in terms of that sort of area.
Right. When you said teaching, like you have students, you're teaching people, where is that teaching happening? Is that like are you purely talking you making YouTube videos and just people commenting, or do you have some sort of classes? Like, do you have some sort of Patreons or something like that?
So I have done both online classes and also in-person classes. I have found, again, getting back to the personal connection stuff, I found the in-person stuff to be far more rewarding, not only for myself personally, but also in terms of being able to truly teach. I've had experiences before where you teach online and half the people, their camera is off. You tell them, please turn your camera on. It doesn't come on. You don't know if they're really learning anything or that sort of thing. Some people are very good. I've had some really positive experiences online as well. But I think I want to focus more on the in-person stuff. That being said, the lesson plans that I do come up with are things I can then record and I can put on YouTube as a sort of secondary income stream in order to do that. Plus, also, you've seen it, like the Soulburn scripts were free. The YouTube stuff, well, I do monetize the YouTube stuff. I'm not making a ton of money off it.
I know.
I do it because I love it, and I do it because I love sharing information, and I love getting feedback. I'll post a video, and the good person will get back to me and say, hey, by the way, there's a faster way of doing that. You could have just done this. And I'll be like, thank you. And then there's the a-hole who goes, you stupid idiot, why didn't you do this? And I'll be instantaneously angry, but then I'll let it go and go, well, despite the fact that person's a bad person, they did actually have a faster way of doing this. And so I'll use that in my next video or my next whatever. More recently, I did a video about just the camera focal lengths. And an old friend from Pixar who I'd worked with for a number of years, he got back to me and said, there's a little extra nuance in your video that you really should talk about. And so I did an update video where I'm like, okay, I decided I wasn't going to talk about this part, but my friend has convinced me it really is something that should be discussed. And so I discussed that as sort of a part 2 to that. And those sort of interactions are wonderful. I love them.
Yeah.
They provide me with so much joy. So yeah, I mean, and that doesn't mean I will never teach, through Zoom again. I will definitely do that, here and there. But the in-person teaching has been incredibly, incredibly rewarding, and I really enjoyed it.
Well, yeah, I'm generally, all my teaching is online. I've been making YouTube for, I think it's going to be 4 years now.
Awesome.
And only recently I launched my own, Patreon, where I'm pretty much making all this, longer content and all that stuff. But yeah, in general, I've always been reading your little, written tutorials on your website, and I was super pleasantly surprised when I was like, holy shit, this dude is actually making YouTube videos now. And I was super happy that I saw, all these, topics that you cover. There is one video that I've been mentioning a lot in my Patreon videos, to my patrons, and that's the video about accidental colors.
Oh, gotcha.
Bro, that's such a freaking gold mine of anything.
Well, I'm glad you like that one.
Did you is that a thing, or did you come up with that, or?
Well, no. I mean, the idea behind it stemmed from a lot of discussions that we had at Pixar over the years. So we constantly were looking at ways of adding extra, hints of color here and there to try to make stuff a little bit more artistic. And so I like the technique I used in 3D. It's a very simple one of just sort of adding these random colors, even just very softly, is something that I did for years and years. And I forget what spawned the video, but I think somebody else recommended another video, and the person talked about the same topic. And I was like, oh yeah, this is the thing that we, did at Pixar. That's really cool. I should do a video about that because, it'd be nice to sort of talk about both the 3D. That one was just 2D, right? And so I thought it would be nice to have someone that sort of talked about the 2D and then also talked about the 3D together as being, it doesn't matter what your technique is. What matters is the idea behind it. That one created controversy though, because I don't know if you can tell, but I'm very slightly tongue-tied. I've always been slightly tongue-tied since I was young. And so what can happen is that sometimes there is like noises that comes out of my mouth, like little slapping noises when I'm recording videos. And that lots of people really seem to like that topic. But I got a message after message after message of people going, oh my God, you sound horrible. You shouldn't be making any YouTube videos. You just, your voice is bad. Or like some people were nice and were like, there are filters you can use to fix that. And I'm like, yeah, I use those filters. But unfortunately, it's not as good as it should be. So far, I
haven't noticed it. So,
well, great. I'm glad.
At least in this recording, great. I haven't heard it.
I don't want to cause people harm. But what I ended up doing was I went into DaVinci Resolve, which I used to do the audio for those videos, and I basically, tweaked a bunch of things. I brought, it's a little muffled now, I would say, but at the same time, it does get rid of a lot of that, and I upped some of the noise canceling and the shush filter, I think it's called. I forget what the different filters are. And I think it's a lot better now than it was then. But yeah, so I had to take down that video because YouTube won't let you replace a video. You can only
that sucks.
Yeah, so I had to I redid the audio and then I put it back up, and it had a pretty good number of people who watched it. And so it was a shame that that disappeared. But whatever, as long as people are happier with it, then that's a good thing.
Yeah, just 1 second. I just wanna put one thing for people to see quickly. Just hold up. Why am I? So for some reason, yesterday I got logged out of everything on my computer, and I've got no idea why. So yeah, I just wanna show one thing to our viewers. So this is a website from Neil Blevins, so Art of Soulburn, and this is where he does his amazing tutorials. As you can see, Like there's a there is a lot of stuff here. The video that I was talking about, the accidental colors, it's this one. So yeah, I mean, I highly recommend generally watching all of these. It's such a, it's such a freaking gold mine of stuff. It's crazy.
The thing about doing videos is the one downside of videos is that they're hard to edit. Like if there's just I want to just add one extra phrase in there, it's your voice never sounds the same.
Oh yeah.
And
Oh yes.
so I prefer doing for the longest time written tutorials because they're easy to update and add new stuff into. But the reality is that the kids these days, they all want videos. So it's like, okay, I'll do a little bit of both. And once in a while that means updating a video, and I'll do that if I have to.
I'm generally freestyling all of my videos. I've tried writing things down, but I generally realize that as I'm writing things down, I'm losing kind of like a true emotion on how I feel about something. Then I'm just gonna be like, okay, now I have to read this part, and read that part, and do this, do that. But like if I'm free soloing something, like or freestyling something, I generally notice that a lot of spontaneous things can happen, and that's where you just kind of have this. I kind of see it like a natural interaction with all the people. So yeah, I started in the beginning, like writing stuff, all that. But after sometimes I was like, screw the script. I'm just gonna go in and then say what I think. But yeah, what you said, whenever you need to record a certain part afterwards, not only that it sounds different, it sounds like that's your brother from another galaxy. That's how it sounds like. It's not you.
Yeah, no, absolutely. No, for like me, what I usually do, some of them I do write down the whole thing and I read through it, especially if it's just slides. But if I'm doing a demo of something where I'm showing off something in a piece of 3D software, I just literally have like single words like, blah, 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 cover this, cover. And then I totally freestyle that. I'm pretty good at just, going, just doing what needs to happen as far as talking and in those sorts of situations. So I do have a bit of a combination, depending on what the overall topic is.
By the way, this year I was a speaker on EUE, on the end user.
Oh, awesome!
Yeah, you were a speaker there too.
I was. Oh man, that was a long time ago though.
Yeah.
That was 2007, I want to say.
Do you know that every time, I'm going to EUE for the last 3 or 4 years, and every time when there is this end event questionnaire, and you're like, which speaker would you like to see next? Neil Blevins. It's always.
Well, I hate to say it because I'm probably expensive because they have to fly me all the way.
Yeah, I can imagine.
US. So,
I know it's not this, make a wish kind of thing. So I do get that. But yeah,
but I would love to go again. I mean, having it at the bar, both myself and my wife absolutely loved.
Oh, both of you came.
Oh yeah. Well, so my wife is also an artist, a 3D artist as well.
Damn.
So she's yeah. So it's we're a 3D power couple. Although our skill set is a little bit complementary. She handles more camera sort of stuff, and I handle more of the more technical sort of things, as well as drawing and painting.
So does she dig robots too?
No, she does not. There's other things that she's more into. But that is totally fine. I have a much, again, I love lots of different things. Like, somebody can't work at Pixar for 16 years if they only love robots and nothing else. So I do love a variety of stuff as well. Miyazaki's films are some of the most fantastic films, animations out there ever. And I mean, there's a few robots in there, I guess, here and there in a couple of the parts, but it's certainly not heavily robot heavy.
Okay, yeah, I didn't know that like you're a 3D power couple. That's
yeah, we have very nerdy conversations over the dinner table. Lots of discussion about ambient occlusion and NURBS and PTEX when it was a thing.
Can you imagine? No, I can't imagine that. But it sounds it sounds amazing. So yeah, I had a talk on EUE this year, and it was actually like a complete culture shock for me, because I'm freestyling all of my videos, all of my content. And I did have an idea on, like what I'm going to be talking about. So the topic was how to unlock self-worth with editable poly. That was
Okay.
And in general, I was generally talking about, understanding your self-worth as a 3D artist, and it was a psychological talk, apart from all my super technical Max talks here. But yeah, it was a very big challenge for me, because I figured out at some point, man, I have to write things down. I need to have bullet points. I need to have all these things structured. So at some point I actually wrote everything word by word, and I was like, yeah, I'm just gonna read that casually. You know how I looked like? I was like this. I was like, hello everyone. I am Vieco, and that's the worst. I look like I'm at a Sunday church.
Yeah, no, have bullet points up on your slide of just like, 2 or 3 words of what the thing is. Don't have all the things written down, and just keep looking up and referring to it. That's at least what I found to be the most helpful.
Yeah, absolutely.
There's a convention that happens every year in Los Angeles called Lightbox Expo that I do every year. It's a lot of fun. And this year I did a talk on making art books, because I've made all these art books. And I got into the business side of things more than the artistic side. I went a little bit into the art, but it was mostly so you want to make a book, and here's how to, some information about laying out a book, and here's all the legal things you need to do. And then here's, the books were printed in China, and then they had to be shipped over from China. Then they had to be distributed to all these people. And so it ended up getting into a lot of the nitty gritty stuff that a lot of people don't talk to, but same thing where it was like, just bullet points with just a little bit, so I remember all the bits and pieces. And then on top of that, I also have that as a written tutorial on my website. So if somebody wants to read it offline, they can read the thing. People got to see it live. At some point, I'll record a video of it too and put it up on my.
Please try again.
Oh, Siri is talking to me. What's up with that?
Yo.
Hold on 1 second. Okay.
Look. You have literally just initiated my Siri.
Oh, nice.
We just had a cross-Atlantic Siri-ception.
Yeah, nice. Siri-ception. I like it.
Yeah, you literally, it literally started glowing. Okay, so
you had cut that part out, but yeah. So that's the best way I think to present is have bullet points and go from there.
You had talks on multiple SIGGRAPHs. On various of these conventions, EUEs also. What I generally want to hear about your first one, where you were scared and nervous, and how did that go?
Oh, no, I'm scared and nervous before every one of them.
Oh, really?
Yeah,
it's not like it gets better.
No, not at all.
Are you scared and nervous now?
Oh, before this talk, absolutely. That's very normal for me. No, but it's one of these things. Once I actually do it, it's one of these things. It's all anticipation for me, anyway. I know different people have different things, but it's the anticipation of, am I going to say something stupid, or am I going to forget something, or et cetera, et cetera. But then when I do them, they are so fun to do. Yeah. It is so liberating actually doing the talk, and then afterwards. I mean, not for this one, but like when I do a talk live at say Lightbox Expo. I usually have like a dozen people who want to talk to me afterwards and ask me like extra questions or talk about their experience with something. And again, that human interaction is just fantastic. So no, every single talk, I've been very lucky that I don't think I've ever done a talk that has gone badly in terms of like, just a complete, mess up where I do stuff that's absolutely, I'll miss things here and there. I'll forget to talk about a little thing, but in general, they've all gone well. But yeah, no, I'm always nervous before a talk, but during the talk and after the talk is great. So I do it anyway.
Well, that's awesome. I've also seen that you won the 3ds Max and Mudbox Autodesk Master Award, something like that.
Oh, yes. Yeah. So that was a Maya thing, if I remember right. They had it, and then Autodesk bought Alias Wavefront, and they decided to also do a Max one. And so it was actually the first year, I believe, that they did that award for Max. And it was me, And Bobo, if you remember him, he was an old school Mac scripter.
I don't think I do.
Borislav, I forget what his last name was. And then I think he was in Bulgaria, if I remember. And then I forget who the third person was. But yeah, so there was three of us that won that very first year, and I got one of those awards, which was, I mean, it wasn't an award from it was from Autodesk, but it was the community that all voted, and I'm just so incredibly pleased that people like my work enough to put me in that spot. And then, yeah, a couple of years later, I got the Mudbox one, which I assume was mostly because I was pushing, like I was at Pixar and I was trying to get a better job of figuring out how to combine, have a Mudbox being used at Pixar. But this is getting really, nerdy, but there was this whole problem where Pixar had the patent for subdivision surfaces, specific type of subdivision surfaces. And so instead of paying the patent cost, most companies just made their own uncompatible version of subdivision surfaces. And that included Max and Original Maya and ZBrush and Mudbox. And so what would happen is you would take some sort of model in Mudbox and you'd bring it into Max or Maya, and the baking would not match, and you get all these artifacts. And so I spent a whole big chunk of time trying to work through those bugs and trying to work through how to make it work. And I was going back and forth with the developers, the original Mudbox developers on that. So I think that just because they saw me around a lot, I was being annoying, going, no, we have to do this and we have to do that and we need this change. I think that they just decided to give me that award. So again, very pleased that, to accept it. But that was a pretty, I did use Mudbox a lot, but I think my contribution was pretty minor to that software.
Speaking of Mudbox, how do you like the latest Mudbox updates?
I don't use them, so I don't know. Well, technically, they are a subscription, right? Although
yes.
it's not.
Yes.
Yeah. So instead, I've been using mostly the sculpting tools inside of Blender, which have done pretty much everything I need for my personal work. Anyway.
Let me. So this was actually a trick question.
Mm-hmm.
Mudbox 2026. When you go to the latest updates, none. Mudbox 2025. Latest updates, none. 2024, none. 2023, I think in 23 they got an option that you can install it on Apple, like on iOS. Features, none. 2022, right. I think it's also none.
If I remember right,
so they're essentially releasing a new version of the software every year without any updates.
Right. If I remember right, they killed it in 2012, 2013, I want to say. Then it was gone for like 5 years, and then they brought it back. But again, I think it's just like quality of life updates for the first couple of years, where it was just stuff like, oh, this needs to be compatible with this now, and this needs to be compatible with that. That's interesting, though, that I guess there hasn't been any of those changes recently, so they're just updating it with no features.
Because I'm constantly thinking, like, if Mudbox is this dead program, why not implementing it? I mean, I know it's not just a drag and drop thing, but maybe trying to implement it into Max or something. It's literally dead. It's like doing nothing, and Max doesn't have it.
But why do the features need to be added if you're going to pay the money anyway every month, right? That's one of the many problems of subscription software. If the money is coming in regardless, the only reason then a lot of money in development is just not worth it.
But what money? Like Mudbox, like yearly Mudbox subscription is like, I don't know, $70 or something a year. Who are you making money from? Like 4 people or something?
I don't know. I mean, putting it inside of Max probably would have a development cost in order to put it in there, I suppose. I do not pretend to understand the intricacies of the business world. I more focus on the artistic world, the community, and other such things. It makes me feel more sane. So I like to stay in that zone if I can.
By the way, just a bit of off topic. It literally just popped to my head that I never actually asked you that question. What rendering engine do you use now in Max? Like, what's your?
I use V-Ray inside of Max. I use, So I switched over from when Brazil finally got end of life. I then moved over to V-Ray, and I have all these assets in it, and other various tools and everything. And then of course I mostly use cycles inside of Blender. That being said, when I'm teaching students, a lot of the students are using computers that are maybe not the fastest computers. So I always default everything to Eevee with the idea that, get your scene set up in Eevee. And then afterwards, if your computer can handle it, then switch over to cycles. And one thing I do like about that setup is that, while not identical, of course, otherwise, what's the point? Pretty much everything works, or at least sort of works in Eevee. And so you don't have to change a bunch of things to switch to cycles. You can almost just say, I now want the higher quality, switch to cycles. That's not 100% accurate. There are certain little differences here and there. But for the most part, I love the fact that you don't have to retexture everything or redo a lot of big stuff. You can just it's not like there's an Eevee specific shader, like if you were to switch between, say, Corona and V-Ray or something like that. Well, maybe not Corona and V-Ray, because now they're owned by the same company, right? But you get the same idea.
Yeah. I mean, there are still differences, but yeah. Okay. I think I generally covered all the things that I wanted to ask you. Is there a thing that you want to exclusively share with people?
I don't think exclusively share, but I do want to, as well as thanking you for this interview. The community, especially the early 3D studio community, is been so important to my life. I started when it was on CompuServe, before the internet was really first starting to really happen.
Yeah.
And I remember interacting with the original developers back and forth in those CompuServe days. And that was back when there wasn't a lot, there was no one in my school that I could talk to about 3D graphics, or very few people. A couple of them knew a little bit about programming something or other. And so it was my first experience of really connecting with the wider world, and people are interested in the same things that I am. And while there's a lot of stuff in the modern internet that has tried to fight against that, human connection, I keep trying to bring myself back to that sort of mindset of, the global 3D community, and we're all trying to make cool stuff, and we're all trying to, hey, how did you do this? Then, oh, here, I'll teach you how to do that. And then, oh, have you tried this? And I would not be where I am without that community. And I'm very, very proud to be a part of that community, and the contribution that I've, managed to do as part of that. And so a huge thanks, to anyone who watches this video. If you know me, if you have no clue who the heck I am, thank you anyway for your contribution, whatever it happens to be, to that wider community. And it gets me excited. It gets me up in the morning, and as opposed to being sucked down into all the horrible things happening in the world.
Oh yeah.
So
speaking of all the horrible things happening, for this,
are we going dark?
Well, not. But get this. This Halloween, we had a Halloween party.
Mm-hmm.
You know what me and my girlfriend dressed up as?
What?
As healers.
As healers?
As healers. Why healers?
Okay.
Because the world is so damn terrible that it literally did a full 360 circle, and now you're a healer instead of a bad guy. So
nice. Well, we need more of that experience to permeate everyone. It is so. It is so easy to be cynical, and trust me, I've been cynical many times about the world and the bad stuff happening. But we're only here for a short period of time on this planet, and we need to try to focus as much as possible on the things that make us happy, and the things that truly connect us with other people.
Yeah, because
without being hippy dippy,
literally, we were like, everything is so damn scary that let's be just freaking healers, and try to heal something. That's that. But by the way, the part that you said about the whole community, how people were, giving all the information and everything. I've been making tutorials for the past 4 years, and it's all like valuable information. I really wasn't gatekeeping stuff or anything, and then somebody asked me are you creating your own competition with that? Well, it's not really that, it's literally a thing where the majority of the knowledge was gifted to me for free. You know, I read it somewhere. Somebody wrote it on a forum somewhere. Somebody said something somewhere, etc. Right? I learned something on my own also, the same as those people did. And I also felt the need of kind of giving back to the community. So I pretty much was, you know, like tossing tutorials, just giving stuff for free. And yeah, it's amazing. Like the community that's being built. I believe the community that you have built on your channel is also phenomenal community. So yeah, I believe both of us are happy on that end.
Yeah, no, gatekeeping knowledge is ridiculous. You know, I mean, some people, like, for example, some people will be like, can you give me all of your brushes, like all your Photoshop brushes? And I'll be like, well, those Photoshop brushes are brushes that I made with my interpretation of what a brush is. I don't want to just give you all those brushes, but here, let me teach you how to make your own brushes. And here, let me teach you what are the different, you know, thought process behind how I would make a brush in order to get this result and that result, so that you can do this yourself. And by doing it yourself, you will now create your brush. You will create your a brush that represents who you are as a person and your own sorts of things. So yeah, I mean, that's basically the way I've sort of viewed it. Also, I've been doing this a very long time, and I haven't run out of learning new things and coming up with new ideas on my own and yet. So it's not like I gave away some sort of key piece of knowledge that by giving it away destroyed my life or something like that. It's like, no, it's a constant, you know, seeking to figure out new and inventive ways of doing something. And
but you know what? It's not only that, because what I saw that would happen, you know, for example, I would, for example, you know, I wanted to make a tutorial about, you know, explaining IOR, where I'm pretty much, you know, trying to explain to people how the boundaries of the IOR work. You know, you cannot, you know, for some things you can know roughly, you know, exact IOR, but for some things, you know, it's just a wild west. So I generally created this video where I'm, you know, setting up setting up boundaries. You know, go up to here, don't go above that. You know, go there, don't go here, blah blah blah. And I had all these, you know, like a certain amount of knowledge. And I remember when I was making that video, you know, this thing popped to my head where I was like, dude, are you 100% sure that what you're saying is correct?
Yeah.
You know that there's gonna be people who are much smarter than you who are gonna be watching your video. Like, what are you gonna do about it? And at that point, I literally went and sent an email to the dude that's behind refractiveindex.info, and him and I, we like exchanged a couple of emails. I was like, okay, is this information correct? Is this correct? Is this accurate? You know, what do you think about these two images? Is this one or this one more correct? And how it turned out, I created this video, which pretty much just was like turbocharged with information that I didn't know. So that's the thing that happens when you teach stuff. So.
Yeah, when you learn, when you teach, you learn, and when you learn, you teach.
Yeah, exactly.
And it's fantastic when that happens. That's one of the reasons, by the way, that I still also write written tutorials. If it's something where I think I'm pretty sure, I'll write a tutorial about it, and I'll put it up, and I'll wait for someone to tell me I'm wrong. And then after a little while, once I've revised the tutorial a bit, then I'll record a video of it when I feel like it's more likely that I know what I'm talking about. So, so yeah, that's another technique that's similar to what you did, where you're like, okay, I need an expert. Just even if I'm right about everything, I need an expert to tell me, yes, it's okay, you can do this.
Yeah. Neil, thank you very, very, very much for joining me here. It was really awesome having this little chat with you. Sorry. Also, if you're down the line, I'm going to invite you again so we can catch up if that's cool for you.
Yeah, no, absolutely. I mean, I hope somebody finds something useful in the hour and a half of gabbing that I did. So we'll see what people think.
Yes.
But yeah, and thanks, to you, and thanks also to all the people who made it this far. I really appreciate the support. So thank you very much for watching. I hope you've enjoyed this video, and don't like and subscribe to my YouTube channel. Instead, please like and subscribe to this YouTube channel. And thank you very much.
No, subscribe to Art of Soulburn. Okay? Bye.